Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming and joining us this evening, even though it's a very, very busy time for everybody, as we are dedicated by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yodai, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam bas Gad, Yosef ben Tzim ben Yaakov Zev, Lefu Shalem for Moshe Ayer ben Miriam, for his good shit of Chayat Tzivya bas Shoshana Gittel. Quickly, same thing for Batya bas Sarah. And we also learned, sponsored by A.B. Spry, Lui Nishmas, Toiba Reiza, Bas Avram HaKayin, his mother, on her 17th yard side. On Neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should be a Melitza Yeshara for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. Sponsored by Baruchian, Lui Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yonah, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, Lefu Shalema for Lidba Bas Anya, and Lefu Shalema for Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam, for a great healthy mommy, healthy baby, for Leora and Ariel Bas Elza Rivka. We learn for Shalema for Sarah Bas Fei, and for Aaron ben Sarah. We learn Leilui Nishmas. Menachos Yamansky asked us to learn Leilui Nishmas for Pinchas ben Ramosha, that Neshama should have an Aliyah and a Lichtige Gan Eden. Okay.
One more you would say?
Yes.
Sarah Chana Bas Reb Tzadok.
Sarah Chana Bas Reb Tzadok. Neshama should have a great Aliyah. Okay, so we're holding about a new Mishnah, new Perek. HaToida Haisabah Chamesh Son Yerushalmiyos. The Toida, the Thanksgiving offering, is brought from 5 Sa Yerushalmiyos. The Sa Yerushalmiyos were made bigger than the Sa at the time of the Midbar, so therefore it was 5 Sa of Yerushalmi Shein Sheish Midbariyos. The ancient saw was 6 saw when the saw was smaller, which equals Shtei Ephos, 2 Epha, Ha-Epha Shalosh Son. And the Epha is 3 saw, so that means that it was a total of 6 sa'in. And to break it down into Isarin, Esrim Isarin, 20 Isarins. Now, the Isarin was not equally divided. In other words, there were 40 loaves, 30 of matzah, 10 chalas, 10 wafers, and 10 revucha, 10 scalded. So there were 30 that were unleavened, and 10 of chametz. The 10 of chametz got 10 isarin, and the 30 of matzah got 10 isarin, as the Mishnah proceeds to tell us. There were esrim isarin, 20 Yisar not divided equally. Asar l'chametz, 10 Yisar were given for the 10 chalas of chametz. V'asar l'matzah, and 10 were given to the 30 of unleavened. Asar l'chametz, 10 Yisar for chametz. That means that each chala, since there were 10 chalas, each chala was an Yisar l'chala. V'asar l'matzah, 10 Yisar for matzah. Now, since there were 30 by the matzah, so that means uba matzah sholosh minim, there were 3 species, chalois, rikikin, uravucha, loaves, wafers, and that which was scalded, it was first scalded with hot water, then baked, and then fried. So therefore, since the total for 30 was 10, so nimtza shloisha esrainim ushlish l'kol min umin. 3 1/3 for the 10 of chalas, 3 1/3 isan for the 10 of rakikin, and 3 1/3 for the 10 that was scalded. And since there was 3 1/3, that means that each chala got 1/3, and that means that 3 chalas got an isarin. V'shalosh chalas le'isarin. Now, that's the calculation with the measures of the time of the midbar. Ubamidas Yishalmias, and the measure of Yishalmias, they measured in kavin. Hayushloishim kav. So the entire Taida had 30 kav, and remember it was split 15, half for the 10 and half for the 30. So Chamisha also the chametz, 15 kav for the chametz, the Chamisha also the matzah, and 15 for the 30 of matzah. Chamisha also the chametz, so that means that every challah got 1.5 kav. Kav Machza l'chala. Every chala got a kav and a half. Chamisha also l'matzah. Then there were 15 for the matzah. So if there were 15 kav for the matzah, that means that each of the 3 varieties got 5 kav. Chamesh is kav l'kol min umin. That means that the chalas got 5 kav, the rikikin got 5 kav, and the revucha got 5 kav. That means that each chala had a half a kav, or 2 chalas per kav. And that's what the Mishnah says, ushtei chalas l'kav, 2 chalas for a kav. Now, the Gemara is going to start explaining all of this, how we know all these things. Remember, Rabbi say, first of all, I really want to roll out the golden carpet. Red carpet is not enough. The golden carpet for Aaron Swade. It's really, Aaron, it's really great to have you. And we wish you the gesund to be able to come more often. We have a small olam tonight. So we have to learn with greater lishma. So it's a smaller island. There's less learning in the world now. That's the way it is. I mean, of course, with Torah Anytime and YouTube and Kala Lashon, we never have a small island, but smaller than usual. Now, says the Gemara, the Taida came 5 sa Yerushalmiyos. Minani Mili. Says the Gemara, how do we know that we said that an ephah is 3 sa? So 2 ephahs is 6 sa. How do we know that? So Amar Rav Chisda, the Amakra, because the pasuk says, ephah v'abas toichen echad yiyah. The ephah and the measure called the bas is the same amount. So ma bas shalosh sa, and just like a bas is 3 sa, so also af ephah shalosh sa, right? That's how we know that. And then over here, where it's 2 ephah, it's 6 sa. So says the Gemara, well, how do we know that a bas is 3 sa? Where do we learn that out from? Ubas gufa minolan. How do we know that the bas? We said the ephah is the same amount as the bas, but how do we know that the bas is 3 sa? habas. To give a tenth of a chaymer a bas. Now a chaymer is 30 sa. So if it's a bas is a tenth of 30 sa, that's 3 sa. Says the Gemara, but if we know for sure the amount of the chaymer, then we don't have to compare the ephah to the bas, because there's another pasuk, ephah nami siva asiris hachaymer ha'ephah. The ephah is a tenth of a chaymer. So we wouldn't need to compare the ephah to a bas and then say that the bas is 3. It says about the ephah that it's a tenth of a chaymer. Obviously, we don't know exactly what a chaymer is. El chaymer lo yadana kama. If we don't know the chaymer what it is, then hachanami lo yadana kama, we wouldn't be able to derive it by comparing it to the bas, because we don't know. It just says the bas is a tenth of the chaymer. We don't know what that is. Ela mehacha. Rather, we learn it out from the following. It says v'choy kashemen, the statute of shemen. Habas hashemen, it's a bas of oil, or meiser habas minakur, and a bas is a meiser of a kur. Now everybody knows that a kur is 30 sa. So if it's a bas is a meiser of a kur, so then a bas is 3 sa. Aseres habatim, 10 batim chaymer. That's a chaymer. Now there we see it's 30 sa. Ki aseres habatim chaymer, because 10 bas, that's 10 times 3 sa, is a chaymer, which is 30 sa. Now, since we're talking about the difference between the Midbariyos and the Yerushalmiyos, Amar Shmuel, Eimoi Sifin Alamidais, we never add more onto the measure, Yoisim Mishtus. We never increase it more than a sixth. V'loi Alamatbeh, we never add to the weight of a coin, Yoisim Mishtus, more than a sixth. V'amistaker, and if one profits on staples, like bread and milk, Lo Yistaker Yoisim Mishtus, he shouldn't profit more than a sixth. The Gemara says, my time, why don't we add to a measure more than a sixth? If it's because we're afraid to inflate the market, because when merchants at distant places that didn't make the measures bigger see that they're charging more, they'll also charge more even though their measure is not bigger. And it'll start an inflation. Then why only more than a six? Shtus namilai. We're worried about cheating. Because if the person sells for an old amount for the price of the new amount, excuse me, if he charges the rate and he's charging a rate for more than a sixth, and he doesn't give the person the bigger rate, but rather the bigger share, he gives them the old share, so then he'll be undercharging them. I mean, he'll be undercharging them more than a sixth. Says the Gemara, but if that's what we're worried about, when something is measured, there's bittul mekach even if it's less than a sixth. Anything that's measured, weighed, or counted, we're worried about the loss to the merchant. We're worried to the loss to the merchant that if the merchant somebody is not muted. I don't understand why. Okay, let me mute everybody. Okay. So says the Gemara, we're worried to the loss of the merchant. See the correct gears over here. The merchant won't know of the increase in the measure, and he'll deliver with this measure that's in the town, which is actually bigger. He doesn't realize it's bigger, and he'll charge the old price. The proper is ziyana. He shouldn't suffer a loss. Says the Gemara. It says ziyanahu d'loi limtiyei. You're just worrying that he shouldn't suffer a loss. Revacha loy, he doesn't have to make a profit. Zavin v'zabin. If he buys and sells just to break even, tagari, is he called a merchant? Says the Gemara. There's a different reason over here why you can't veer from a sixth. It's learned out from a pasuk. Allah Amar Rav Chisda Shmuel Kra Ashkach V'Darash. Shmuel found the pasuk and expounded on the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vashekel esrim geira." The shekel is 20 geira, and the pasuk then says, "Esrim shkalim." Let's count 20 shkalim. Chamisha v'esrim shkalim, 25, that's 45. Asara v'chamisha, 15, that's 60 shekel. Hamana yilachem, 60 shekel is a mana. Now, 60 shekel is 240 dinner. But a mana is not 240 dinner. A mana is only 100 dinner. Mana masan? Mana masan v'arban havu? Is a mana 240? Because you tell me it's 60 shkalim. Each shekel is 4 dinner. That would mean mana is 240. Mana is only 100. That's what mana means, 100. El shmami no tlas. We could derive 3 things. Shmami no mana shel kodesh kafalay. The mana of kodesh was double. So instead of 100, it was 200. Ushmami no moisifin al amidas. You could add. Ve'ei moisifin yosim ishtus. You can't add more than a sixth. But wait a second. 40 out of 20 is a fifth. But that's called the shtus milavar. Ushmami no shtuso milavar. In other words, really, it's when we say shtus, we mean a fifth, which is a sixth of the new total. That means a sixth of the outside amount. Because when you have the outside amount 240, a sixth of 240 is 40. 6 times 40 is 240. So it's really a fifth of the 200, but it's called the sixth because when you add the 40 to the 200, then it becomes a sixth from the outside total. That's called the shtus milavar. Ravina, Masnisa Nami Deka, our Mishnah also implies this. Diktani Taida Isabah Chamesh in Yerushalmiyos. The Taida was bought 5 sa Yerushalmiyos when they added, then they made the sa bigger, Shem Sheish Midbariyos, which is 6 of the ancient sa, and that is an increase of a sixth from the outside. That's a mathematical computation, 6 over 5. Shma mina, that it means a shtus milavar. Now, we know that the Taida had 40 loaves, 30 of matzah, of 3 different kinds, chalas, rikikin, and revucha, and 10 of chametz. From each 10, you gave 1 to the kohen. So let's see the Mishnah. Mikulam ayonoitel echad me'asara truma. From all of them, he took 1 out of the 10, a truma to the kohen. Shnema vikriv mimenu echad mikol karban, 1 from each, truma la'Hashem. So first of all, echad shelo yitel paros. He has to give 1 whole challah. He can't take a piece. Mikol karban, she'ei kola karbana shavis. He has to give from each one equally. He can't give, let's say, 2 chalas and no rikikin. Shelo yitel mikarban al chaveira. He has to give from each one. L'kayin azarek es adam hashlamim. Remember, the taida was a shlamim, which was accompanied by the loaves. Who gets these 4 loaves? L'kayin azarek es adam hashlamim. The kayin that sprinkles the blood of the shlamim lo yiyeh. And what happens to the other 36 chalas? The rest is eaten by the owner, and it's eaten by the owner anywhere in the old city. Tan Rabbanan, v'hikriv mimenu, he offers from it mina mechuber, which means that he has to put all 10 in 1 keli, so that they should be united, and then take 1 from the 10. Echad, shelo yitel paros, he shouldn't take a piece. Mikol carbon, like we said, shiu kola karbana shavais, they should all be the same. Shelo yitom and a carbon al chavera. You can't take 1 or 2 chalas and no rikikin. Truma la'Hashem. So the Gemara says, Eini yodeya mekamehi. I don't know how many loaves are there from each type. So now we start learning. Hareini done. Nema kan truma. It says over here by the Taida truma. V'nema betrumas meiser truma. And it says by the trumas meiser truma, ma'alahalan echad me'asara. Just like by trumas meiser, the Levi takes 1 out of 10. Afkan echad me'asara. So here also by Lachmei Taida, he takes 1 out of 10. 1 chala out of 10 chalas, 1 rokik out of 10 rikikin, 1 revucha out of 10 revucha, and 1 chametz out of 10 chametz. Oi, klach l'derech zu. Maybe you should go in this direction. Nema kan truma, v'nema bikurim truma. It says by bikurim truma. Now by bikurim, there's no shear. Malahalan ain't lo shear. So maybe over here, afkan ain't lo shear. There's no definitive amount. Says, well, nearer l'midaima. What's the Taida more similar to? Is it more similar to Trumas Maisa, or is it more similar to Bikurim? Done in Truma she'ina acharei Truma. I learn out Truma that there's no Truma after it. But by Trumas of the Lachmei Taida, once you take the challah and give it to Kain, there's no further Truma. Mit Truma she'ina acharei Truma. Once you give the Trumas Maisa, there's no Truma after it. Because the owner separates the ripe fruits, but then he has to give truma, and the Levi has to give trumas meisim. Sheyesh acharei truma. Oy klach l'derech zu. You should go in this direction. Done in truma necheles b'makom kodesh. We should learn out truma that has to be eaten in the old city in the makom kodesh. Mit truma necheles b'makom kodesh from bikurim, that also has to be eaten in Yerushalayim. V'al toichiach trumas ma'isa, that could be eaten anywhere. Shenecheles b'chol makom, it could be eaten anywhere. Talmud Leimer, we have a Gzeirah Shava. We should remember this Gzeirah Shava. We're going to need it later. Talmud Leimer, mimenu truma la'Hashem. It says by Taida, mimenu truma la'Hashem, and it says by trumas ma'isa, mimenu truma. So it says mimenu and truma. So the Gzeirah Shava, so therefore it's 1 out of 10. So says the Gemara, Lamadnu l'truma, that which we give to the Kayin, she echad me'asar, that it's 1 out of 10. Aval eini idea mikama hichala, but I don't know how much flour is used. Right, so it says the Gemara, Hari done, nemar kan lechem. It says over here, by the chametz lechem, minema lahalan b'shtei lechem lechem, and it says by the shtei lechem lechem, ma lahalan isaron lechala, just like over there by the shtei lechem, each chala was an isaron. Afkan by the chametz, each chala is an isaron. Afkan isaron. Or maybe we should compare it to the lechem aponim. Oy klach l'derech zu nema kan lechem, v'nema b'lechem aponim lechem. Ma'alahala on each chala is shnei esroines. So afkan shnei esroines. So the Gemara says, okay, let's see which one it's more similar to. Nira l'midaina, don in mincha bo chometz imazevach. We learn out the Taida, which has an adjunct of 10 loaves of chametz together with the carbon taida. Mimincha ba chametz imazevach. Shtei lechem of shvuas, which is chametz, together with the shalmei tzibur, the kifsei atzeres of shvuas. V'al yechiach lechem aponim. First of all, it's not chametz, and it's not an adjunct. Sheina ba chametz imazevach. Or perhaps klach l'derech zu. Done in mincha ba me eretz v'chutzlaretz min hachadash min hayashin. We learn out the taida, which can be brought from Eretz Yisrael, it can be brought from chutzlaretz, it can be brought from the new crop, it can be brought from the old crop. Min mincha ba me eretz v'chutzlaretz min hachadash min hayashin. We learn that out. We learn it out from the lechem aponim that could be bought from Eretz, Chutzlaretz, Chadash, and Yashin, but not the shtei alechem, which can only be brought she'ein bo yisrael min hachadash, from the new crop of wheat, or min haaretz, and from Eretz Yisrael. Now the ma'aseh is, we know that we compare it to the shtei alechem, because we know that the chametz, each one is in isaron like the shtei alechem. So the Gemara says, you know how we know it? Because there's an extra word by the shtei alechem on Shavuos. Talmud Leimer mimoishvoiseichem toviu lechem tenufa shtayim. From your habitats, you should bring lechem tnufa, bread of waving too. Now the word taviu is completely superfluous, because it already says earlier, v'aviachem, you should bring it. So why does it have to say taviu? She'ein talmud loimer taviu. It doesn't have to say taviu. Why does it say it? Ma talmud loimer taviu. Shekol ma she'ata mevi mimakam achar. Anything else that you bring chametz. Remember, the shtei alechem is unique that it's chametz, and the 10 loaves of the Torah is chametz. Shekol ma she'ata mevi mimakam achar harihu kazeh. Ma'alahala, and just like the shtei alechem is isor and lechala, is a 10th per chala. Afkan isor and lechala. Says the Gemara, well, but maybe we should say just like the shtei alechem is a total of 2 isaron. Maybe the 10 chalas of chametz should also be a total of 2 isaron. Imalahalan shnei esrainos, and that's it. Afkan shnei esrainos. Talmud loimer tiyena. Now, at the end of the daf, it's going to tell us that there's an extra yud in tiyena to tell us that it's the chametz is 10 isaron. Okay, but that's how we know the 10 loaves of chametz. How do we know that the 30 loaves of the matzah variety, I know it's chalas, rikikin, and revucha, is also 10 isaron? Lamadnu asar lechametz, asar lematzah minayin. How do we know the 10 for matzah? Talmud loimer al chalas lechem chametz. We say that the matzah is brought with the loaves of chametz. So we darshan neged chametz have matzah, corresponding to the amount of chametz. That should be the 30 of matzah. Nimtzu esrim esrainis lachmei taida, 20 isaron on the lachmei taida, asar lechametz v'asar lematzah. Says the Gemara, Yachal asar shebamatzah lo yu kulan elam min echad. Maybe the 10 isaron of matzah should also be only one type. No, that's a beferish pasuk. Talmud loimer im al toida yakrivenu. If you're bringing a Thanksgiving offering, v'hikr val zevach hatoila chalois matzahs b'lulas b'shemen, loaves mixed with shemen, or a kikei matzahs mishulchan b'shemen, wafers anointed with oil, v'silas meruveches, and flour which is scalded. Nimtza, we find that there's 10 isaron for the 30 chalas. That means each 10 gets 3 1/3. Nimtza shloisha esrain v'shlish l'kol min umin, and therefore, since it's 3 1/3 for 10, that's a third for each chala, or 3 chalas to isaron, l'shalosh chalos li'isaron. V'nimtzu lachmei toida arbam, the loaves of toida are 40, and you take 4, 1 from each type, and give it to the kayin. Noitzil mehem arba v'noitzil l'kayin, ba'ashar, and the rest is nechalon l'kahanim, l'balam, eaten by the owners, anywhere in Yerushalayim. So now, the Gemara does a study of this. Whenever Amar Mar is like Gufa, it's an analysis. Amar Mar, v'hikriv mimenu, you offer from it min ha'mechuber. That means that you have to put all 10 in one keli so that they're united. Says the Gemara, al miyata d'chsiv es kol chelba yorim mimenu, and all the fat you remove from the carbon, from the chatas, hasamai mechuberik. The Gemara assumes that they took the fat after they were mekayim v'nitach ha'isayilin socher, and they cut it up in pieces. So how is it mechuber? Says the Gemara, Kid Rav Chisda Amar Avimi, the Amar Rav Chisda Amar Avimi, shelo yinna basar kaidim sheyitalem, shelo yinatach basar, they didn't cut the meat kaidim sheyitalem urim after, until they took the fats, so the fats were actually attached. Amar Mar, never kan truma, it says by the lachmei toida truma, v'nemer b'truma smaiser truma, right? So just like by truma smaiser, it's 1 out of 10. So here also it's 1 out of 10. Says the Gemara, well, maybe we should learn out from the Truma of Midian, when they gave from the booty of Midian, they gave a Truma, and there it was 1 out of 500. Says the Gemara, no, done in Truma haneheges l'dairos. We learn out of Truma, which is practiced throughout the generations, the Taida, from Truma haneheges l'dairos, from Trumas Maisa, which is practiced throughout the generations. So, Trumas Midian, we don't learn out from the spoils of Midian. That was only a one-time thing. Sheina naheges l'dairos. Says Gemara, v'neilif mitrumas chala. Why don't we learn out from Truma of Chala? Chala is 1/24th. The Reishis Arisayseichem is 1/24th. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, done in Davish and Emma by Mimenu Truma. Davish and Emma by Mimenu Truma as Hashem. Or if you have the gears over here, Davish and Emma by Mimenu Truma la Hashem. Davish and Emma by Truma as Hashem. So it's more comparable Trumas Meiser. Afuke Trumas Chala, the loinema by Mimenu Truma la Hashem. It doesn't say Truma la Hashem. Now, asks the Gemara, Boy Rava, Trumas Lachmei Taida. We just said we learned it out from Trumas Meiser. Does that mean that the challah that we give to the kain, the 4 challahs that we give to the kain from the taida, if a non-kain eats it, he gets misbedei shemayim, and he has to add a 5th, like by truma? Chayav and alei misa v'chaimish, or ein chayav and alei misa v'chaimish, or maybe you're not chayav. Came in the iskishlu trumas meiser. So Ketrunas Maisa Dami, and there would be Misbedei Shemayim, and they would have to add a 5th. Dilma, by Truma, it says Boy V'chamishisai Miyat Rachmana, and that would mean that there's no Misa by the 4 loaves of the Taida. Midamas Ayin Midamas. If the Truma of the Taida bread, one of these loaves, falls into Chulin, does it cause the chulin to be aser like Trumas Maisa would? Or it doesn't? Says the Gemara, take Tishbi Ataretz Kushis Vibais. We're going to have to wait for Mashiach. Amamar. Now remember, I told you it says Talmud Leimet Tiyena. That's how we know that it's not like the Shtei Alechem, a total of 2 Yisaron, but rather the Chametz is 10 Yisaron, 1 Yisaron for a Challah. My Talmud, how do you know from the word Tiyena that it's 10? Amar Rav Yitzchak ba'avdimi tiyena ksiv, with an extra yud. Says the Gemara, but ema asora kapize. How do we know it's 10 yisaron? Maybe it's 10 kapize, a different measure. Amar Rava be'esrainas dibra akasim. No, we're talking about israinas, because by the Shtei Alechem, it's 2 yisaron. So if it's 10, it's going to be 10 yisaron, not 10 kapizne. Says the Gemara, Lamadnu asara lechametz, asara lematzah minayin. We said 10 by the chametz. How do we know 10 by the matzah? Talmud Leimer al chalas lechem chametz. Corresponding, the matzah should be corresponding to the chalas lechem chametz. Keneged chametz have matzah. Now the problem is that we learned out chametz from a hekish to the Shtei Alechem. Can we then learn out matzah from a hekesh to chametz? V'chi davar alamed behekesh chazer u'malamed behekesh. Says the Gemara, well, we don't just learn out chametz from the Shtei Alechem. Because remember, we also learn it out from a Gzeirah Shava from Trumas Meiser. So it's heimenu v'davar acharu. It's a combination of a hekesh and a gzeirah shava. The chol menu v'davar achar lo yavi hekesh. That's not something considered something that's a hekesh that teaches it with another hekesh. So the Gemara says, "Hani chalamandi amar lo yavi hekesh." That if there's another source it mixed in, it's not a problem. Elamandi amar havi hekesh. It's still a problem. Mai kilameima says, well, really, we learn it out from the ribui of the pasuk, because remember, the pasuk by the Shtei Alechem didn't have to say the word taviu, because it already says v'haviachem. So from the Taviu, we learn out also the Lachmei Taida, and therefore Ribuya, it's a Ribuy, and therefore it's not considered something that we derived originally from a Hekesh. Okay, Rabbi say, if you remember, some of you might not remember, but I told you last night that we have to learn 2 blat tonight, because if we don't learn 2 blat tonight and 2 blat tomorrow night, we have to learn 4 blat Matzah Yom Tov. We don't want to learn 4 blat Matzah Yom Tov, so give me a little bit more time, and we're going to learn yet another blat tonight. Just pause a moment.